You are not hurt by words. You are hurt by your ego. Imagine someone throws a stone at a massive, impenetrable fortress. The stone bounces harmlessly off the thick wall and falls into the dirt. But instead of walking away, you open the gates, walk outside, pick up that exact same stone, and smash it against your own head. This sounds completely insane, yet this is exactly what you do every single time you allow an insult to trigger you. An insult is nothing more than a psychological illusion, a mere vibration of air, completely powerless until you give it power. When someone disrespects you, they are essentially handing you a package of their own toxic energy, their own insecurities, and their own internal chaos. Society has programmed you to believe that if you do not fight back, if you do not deliver a sharp comeback or defend your honor, you are weak. You are told that you must react, explain yourself, and match their aggressive energy. But Stoicism completely flips this logic on its head, revealing a paradoxical wisdom. The ultimate form of power does not lie in a clever retort, but in the unshakable realization that you do not need to say anything at all. If a toddler calls you incompetent, you just laugh because you know they do not understand the concept. So why would you give the weight of absolute truth to the words of an irrational coworker, an angry family member, or a bitter stranger online? Ancient Roman philosophers like Epictetus understood that people who insult others are simply trying to manipulate your emotional state to feel superior. They want to drag you into their storm. By reacting with anger, you are instantly validating their illusion and handing over the keys to your mental fortress. You are telling them that their subjective, flawed opinion has the authority to dictate your self-worth. You must utterly reject the victim mentality right now. No one, no matter their title or relationship to you, can harm you without your explicit consent. Your mind is your territory. When someone launches a verbal attack, they are just making noise. It is your own ego, your own internal judgment, that takes that noise and translates it into pain. The strongest person in the room is never the loudest or the most defensive. The strongest person is the observer, the one who remains entirely calm and unaffected. In this exact moment, you have the opportunity to practice psychological judo, absorbing their hostile energy and letting it crash to the floor without ever letting it touch your core. You are about to learn how to completely neutralize any negative force from the outside, transforming insults from emotional wounds into objective data that you can use to maintain absolute control over your reality. 2,000 years ago, a former slave turned Stoic philosopher named Epictetus revealed a profound psychological secret that completely destroys the power of any verbal attack. He compared insulting words to an echo bouncing off a distant canyon wall. An echo is entirely empty. It has no physical mass. It cannot strike you. It cannot cut your skin. And it is completely worthless until you consciously choose to pay attention to it. Epictetus observed that if a man calls you a fool and you immediately become defensive and start complaining, you are actually proving him right because you have allowed a meaningless vibration in the air to control your mind. You are taking his empty echo and turning it into a solid weapon against yourself. Think about the exact psychological cause and effect when someone attacks your intelligence or your character. They speak a few words. Those sound waves travel across the room and enter your ear. In that exact fraction of a second, those sound waves do not contain any magical power to cause you emotional pain. The pain only begins when your own brain processes the sound and your ego whispers that you must be offended. Epictetus taught that what is insulting is never the person who abuses you, but only your own internal judgment that their words are insulting. You must realize right now that you possess the ultimate and absolute right to refuse to be harmed. This is not about suppressing your natural emotions or simply pretending that you do not care. It is about a deliberate psychological detachment where you observe the insult as if it were happening to someone else entirely. When an aggressive coworker tries to undermine you during a project presentation, or a relative makes a deeply critical remark at the dinner table, Their true goal is to drag you down into their own emotional mud. They are practically begging you to react, because your reaction is the only thing that validates their toxic behavior. If you get angry and shout back, they win. If you frantically try to explain yourself, they win. But if you simply observe their words fading into the silence like a worthless echo, their entire strategy instantly collapses. They are left standing there holding the awkward and heavy weight of their own negativity. While you remain completely untouched, you have essentially starved their fire of its oxygen. By refusing to engage with the illusion of the insult, you prove without a single word that your self-worth is not up for debate. You are establishing an unbreakable boundary. You are telling them through your unshakable composure that their flawed judgment is infinitely smaller than your peace of mind. Your mind is an impenetrable vault, and you are the only person who holds the combination. No one can force you to feel inferior without your explicit permission. You must stop granting that permission to people who do not even have control over their own minds. The moment you stop taking their words personally, you transform from a potential victim into an untouchable observer, mastering the entire room without having to lift a single finger or raise your voice by even 1 decibel. Now that you have established your mind as an impenetrable vault and refuse to validate the illusion of the insult, it is time to deploy what we can call Stoic psychological judo. When someone attacks you verbally, they are throwing their entire emotional weight directly at you. They expect you to push back. They desperately want you to get defensive, to raise your voice, and to match their chaotic energy. Think of it like a game of tug-of-war. They are pulling on one end of the rope with all their might, hoping you will grab the other end and struggle against them. But what happens in a game of tug-of-war if you simply drop the rope? The other person goes flying backwards, completely off balance, destroyed by their very own momentum. This is exactly how you must handle external negativity and disrespect. You do not fight their hostile energy. You step aside and let it crash harmlessly to the floor. If a coworker is trying to aggressively undermine your intelligence in front of the entire office, or if a toxic relative is picking apart your personal life choices during a Thanksgiving dinner, their aggression operates exactly like a fire. Fire requires a constant supply of oxygen to survive. And in any verbal conflict, your emotional reaction is the oxygen. The exact moment you start defending yourself, you are actively fanning the flames. You are signaling to them that their words have successfully penetrated your armor. But if you practice psychological judo, you absorb that aggressive energy and reflect it right back at them without moving a single inch. You create a psychological vacuum. You look at them with absolute calm, offering absolutely no resistance, no anger, and no fear. In that profound silence, a massive power shift occurs. Because you have refused to supply the oxygen, their fire immediately begins to suffocate. They are suddenly left standing alone in the room, holding the heavy, awkward weight of their own toxicity. Their attempt to manipulate your emotions has completely failed, and now everyone in the room is looking at their loss of control, not at you. By stepping out of the way, you have forced them to confront their own immaturity. They wanted a bitter battle, but you gave them a clear mirror. This reveals the profound difference between reacting and observing. A reactive person operates from a fragile ego, desperately trying to protect their image with sharp comebacks and loud arguments. An observer operates from a position of unshakable authority. You realize that you do not need to prove your intelligence or your worth to someone who is fundamentally irrational. You simply do not compete in their category. You are playing a completely different game on a completely different level. By mastering this form of psychological judo, you stop being a helpless participant in the drama of other people, and you become the undisputed director of your own reality. You absorb the attack, you neutralize the venom, and you leave the attackers scrambling to recover their dignity while you have not even broken a single drop of sweat. Now that you understand the mechanics of stepping aside, you need the actual tools to execute this maneuver in the real world. Welcome to your first weapon of absolute boundary setting. In a culture that glorifies the loud argument and the viral clapback, society has lied to you. It tells you that if you walk away from a fight, you are a coward who cannot defend yourself. But the Stoic realizes a powerful paradox. True strength is knowing exactly when a battle is completely worthless. When you are trapped in a room with someone who is fundamentally committed to misunderstanding you, someone who is using their words to provoke rather than to communicate, your logical arguments are utterly useless. You are trying to use reason to extinguish a fire that is fueled by pure ego. Whether it is a hostile coworker in a corporate boardroom trying to talk over your presentation, or a bitter relative picking apart your life choices at a Thanksgiving dinner, the dynamic is the same. This is the exact moment to deploy the ultimate conversation killer. You look the aggressor directly in the eyes, you do not raise your voice by a single decibel, and you state with absolute, unbreakable calm, "This conversation is no longer productive." Notice the profound psychological shift that occurs in that split second. You are not running away, and you are not playing the victim. You are acting as the sovereign ruler of your own mental space. By stating that the interaction is no longer productive, you are dragging the conflict out of the murky waters of emotional manipulation and dropping it into the harsh light of objective reality. The other person is instantly paralyzed. They threw a verbal punch, expecting you to block it or punch back, but instead, you simply dismantled the entire boxing ring. If they continue to rant and rave after you have drawn this line, they are no longer arguing with you. They are just a chaotic person yelling at an impenetrable brick wall. Everyone else in the room will see their immaturity on full display. You have established a psychological fortress. You are sending a clear, undeniable message that your time, your energy, and your peace of mind are extremely valuable commodities, and you absolutely refuse to spend them on a bankrupt interaction. People who are addicted to drama will hate you for this. They will accuse you of being dismissive or arrogant because you have suddenly cut off their supply of emotional oxygen. Let them complain. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. You cannot control the chaotic behavior of an insecure colleague or a toxic relative, but you have absolute control over your own participation. You do not need to over-explain your position. You do not need to justify your exit, and you certainly do not need their permission to protect your energy. You just deploy the sentence, absorb their shock, and pivot your attention to something that actually matters. This is how you win the game without ever throwing a single punch. Now that you have learned how to dismantle the boxing ring, it is time to master a weapon so subtle that your attacker will not even realize they have been defeated until you have already walked away. Welcome to your second weapon, which we can call the shock of absolute politeness. Society has deeply conditioned you to believe that you must always meet hostility with equal hostility. If someone throws an insult your way, you are supposed to defend your honor, raise your voice, and fight back. But remember our core Stoic principle. The person who controls their own reactions controls the entire room. Sometimes, the most devastating psychological response is not a clever comeback or a sharp insult. Sometimes, it is as simple as looking the aggressor directly in the eyes, maintaining a perfectly calm expression, and saying, "Have a good day." At first glance, this might seem passive or even weak to someone who is still trapped in a reactive mindset. But let us break down the exact psychological effect this has on a toxic person. When someone attacks you verbally, whether it is an angry stranger aggressively cutting in front of you at the grocery store, or a jealous acquaintance mocking your personal life choices, they are throwing emotional bait. They are practically begging you to take that bait so they can drag you down into their own chaotic reality. They expect anger, defensiveness, or fear, but when you respond with absolute, unshakable politeness, you completely disrupt their mental script. You do not fight them, and you do not run away. You simply refuse to participate in their illusion. By wishing them a good day, You are building an invisible but completely impenetrable psychological wall. You are telling them, without needing to explain yourself, that their negative energy is so insignificant and so completely powerless that it cannot even alter your basic human manners. It is the ultimate display of untouchable authority. Imagine the scene where they are red in the face, raising their voice, throwing their toxic energy directly at you. You remain perfectly still, like a deep and quiet ocean, absorbing absolutely none of their chaos. You deliver your polite dismissal, turn your back, and pivot your attention elsewhere. Instantly, the power dynamic is permanently flipped. The fire of their anger has been completely starved of the oxygen it desperately needed from your emotional reaction. They are left standing there, holding the awkward and heavy weight of their own negativity for everyone to see. Any observer in the room will realize immediately who is the master of the situation and who is the emotional toddler throwing a tantrum. You have neutralized their venom with the simplest phrase imaginable. The true Stoic understands that real power does not come from screaming the loudest or having the last word. Real power comes from the profound realization that you do not owe anyone a reaction. You do not need to justify your existence or defend your intelligence against someone who is fundamentally irrational. Your peace of mind is an absolute fortress, and polite detachment is the moat that keeps the chaotic masses completely at bay. By deploying this weapon of radical politeness, you maintain your dignity and leave the attacker to drown in their own emotional mud, while you remain completely untouched by their storm. There is a third weapon in your Stoic arsenal, designed specifically for those moments when an attacker tries to disguise their hostility as helpful advice or objective criticism. We can call this the stance of the untouchable observer, and it is activated by one incredibly simple phrase, "Thank you for your opinion." On the surface, this might sound like a polite agreement or a harmless conversational filler, but in the realm of psychological judo, it is a profoundly devastating block. When a toxic coworker belittles your methods in front of the entire team, or a deeply insecure relative decides to ruthlessly dissect your personal life choices during a family dinner, they are laying a psychological trap. They want you to take their subjective, flawed judgment seriously. They expect you to desperately defend your intelligence, to explain your choices, or to counterattack with equal venom. Society has convinced you that if you do not argue back and justify yourself, you are somehow admitting defeat. But the Stoic philosopher realizes that arguing with a fragile ego is like trying to extinguish a raging fire by pouring gasoline on it. You cannot use rational logic to defeat someone who is operating entirely on blind emotion and insecurity. By looking them dead in the eye and calmly stating, "Thank you for your opinion," you execute a masterclass in emotional detachment. You are acknowledging that they have spoken without validating their truth. Think carefully about the psychological cause and effect of this specific maneuver. The attacker throws a heavy emotional punch, fully expecting to hit the solid wall of your defensive ego. Instead, you step aside completely and let them punch the empty air. You tell them, without using a single aggressive word, that you hear the noise they are making, but you absolutely refuse to give that noise any authority over your internal reality. You do not lower your own high standards to meet them in the mud. You remain perfectly elevated as the untouchable observer. In an instant, their entire manipulative strategy is neutralized. They cannot continue to argue with a person who refuses to fight, and they cannot manipulate a mind that refuses to be offended. The profound silence that follows your statement will feel incredibly heavy to the aggressor, because they are suddenly forced to confront the absolute fact that their words have zero impact on your confidence. They wanted to drag you into their chaotic storm, but you remained a tranquil, unshakable fortress. People who thrive on drama and conflict will find this calm neutrality intensely frustrating, but their frustration is completely their own creation and their own responsibility. You do not owe them an explanation. You do not owe them a heated debate. and you certainly do not owe them the power to dictate your self-worth. By mastering this single phrase, you protect your highly valuable mental energy and preserve your absolute dignity, proving to everyone in the room that true power is never measured by who can shout the loudest, but by who possesses the supreme discipline of remaining entirely unaffected by the noise. Once you have successfully positioned yourself as the untouchable observer and neutralized their verbal attack with absolute calm, a new psychological opportunity opens up before you. You have stopped the bleeding, but now you must transform the weapon itself into a source of unbreakable power. This brings us to the profound concept of transformation, or what the Stoic philosopher and Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius called the revenge of excellence. Society deeply conditions you to believe that revenge requires retaliation, that you must return a bitter insult with an even sharper insult, or inflict pain upon the person who tried to hurt you. But Marcus Aurelius revealed a truth that completely shatters this common delusion. He wrote that the absolute best revenge is to not be like the person who performed the injury. Think carefully about the profound psychological weight of that statement. When an insecure colleague attempts to sabotage your reputation, or a toxic family member hurls a petty insult at you, they are operating from a place of deep internal weakness and chaos. If you lower your standards to meet them in the mud, if you exchange insult for insult and match their toxic energy, you have instantly become their psychological twin. You have validated their method and proven that their toxicity is strong enough to corrupt your character. But the Stoic master absolutely refuses to engage in this race to the bottom. Instead of reacting with pettiness, you respond with radical, unshakable excellence. You take the negative energy they threw at you and you process it purely as objective data. If there is a tiny grain of truth hidden within their harsh words, you detach your ego, extract that truth, and use it to improve yourself, rendering their attempt to hurt you completely useless. If their words are nothing but baseless lies driven by envy, you use their attack as fuel to elevate your own performance and character to a level they could never possibly reach. Your excellence becomes your ultimate and most devastating response. If they are loud, you become quiet. If they are dishonest, you become radically truthful. If they are petty, you become magnanimous. By deliberately refusing to mirror their chaotic behavior, you maintain the absolute high ground. You prove their insults false not by arguing, but by existing as a living contradiction to everything they said about you. The aggressor is left to watch you thrive and elevate yourself, realizing with crushing clarity that their attempt to break you only made you infinitely stronger. This is the highest form of psychological dominance. You do not crush your enemies by destroying them. You crush their toxic influence by remaining entirely indifferent to their attacks and focusing every single ounce of your energy on your own relentless growth. When you apply this principle, an insult ceases to be a weapon used against you and transforms into a powerful catalyst for your own unstoppable success, leaving the person who insulted you forever trapped in the very shadow they tried to cast over your life. This unstoppable success naturally leads to the ultimate realization of your Stoic journey, the construction of the unshakable fortress. Imagine your mind as a massive, ancient stone citadel sitting high on a hill. When someone disrespects you, they are essentially standing at the bottom of the hill throwing tiny pebbles at 50-foot thick granite walls. Objectively, their actions are completely harmless and fundamentally absurd. A pebble cannot crack solid granite. The fortress can never be taken by force from the outside. The only possible way that this magnificent citadel can fall is if you, the sovereign commander, deliberately walk down to the gates, turn the heavy iron locks, lower the drawbridge, and invite the enemy inside. This is exactly what happens in your brain every single time you allow an insult to trigger your emotions, your anger, your defensiveness, and your desperate need for external approval are the only keys that can open the gates of your mental sanctuary. When a toxic coworker sends a passive-aggressive email, or a stranger yells at you in the middle of a crowded Los Angeles intersection, they are just throwing pebbles. They have absolutely no real power over your intrinsic value. But the exact moment you type out a furious reply or shout back at the stranger, you are actively surrendering your fortress. You are letting their chaotic, unhealed energy storm into your peaceful courtyard. The Stoic philosopher recognizes this psychological dynamic and flatly refuses to open the gate. You must understand that keeping the gate closed does not mean you are suppressing your natural feelings or running away from conflict in fear. It means you possess the supreme discipline to look down from your high watchtower, observe the pathetic attempt to breach your walls, and decide that the attacker is simply not worth your energy. True authority is not the ability to aggressively crush your enemies. True authority is the ability to remain completely indifferent to their desperate attempts to crush you. By remaining utterly unbothered, you force the attacker to waste their own energy against an impenetrable defense. They will throw their insults, they will shout their baseless criticisms, and eventually, they will completely exhaust themselves and walk away, leaving your walls completely intact and your peace of mind absolutely undisturbed. You must construct this unshakable fortress by actively accepting that your self-worth is never up for a public vote. It is a permanent fixture of your character that does not require anyone else to validate it. Let the outside world be as noisy and chaotic as it wants to be. The hostile opinions of irrational people are nothing more than the wind blowing against the stone. You are secure. You are detached. And you are in absolute control of the only territory that actually matters, which is your own internal reality. This brings us to the ultimate realization of what true power actually looks like in the real world. Society has sold you a massive lie about power. You have been conditioned to believe that the most powerful person in the room is the loudest, the one who dominates the conversation, the one who delivers the sharpest comeback, and the one who always has to have the absolute last word. But when you observe human behavior through the lens of Stoic philosophy, you see the exact opposite. The person who is shouting, reacting, and desperately trying to tear others down is actually the weakest person in the room. They are entirely dependent on external validation, and they are completely enslaved by their own unhealed insecurities. True authority does not require a raised voice. True authority does not require a clever insult. True authority is the profound and quiet confidence of a mind that simply cannot be manipulated by outside forces. When you deploy the weapons we have discussed, when you set a firm boundary by stating the conversation is no longer productive, when you deliver the shock of absolute politeness by wishing them a good day, or when you assume the stance of the untouchable observer by thanking them for their opinion, you are stepping into a completely different dimension of psychological dominance. You are proving that you do not need a sharper tongue. You only need a stronger mind. The attackers will eventually realize that their attempts to humiliate you are as useless as throwing pebbles at a mountain. They will exhaust themselves against the solid granite of your composure, while you remain entirely undisturbed. You must remember that every single time you refuse to be offended, you are practicing the highest form of human freedom. You are actively deciding that no one, regardless of their status, their volume, or their aggression, has the power to alter your mood without your explicit consent. You are no longer a reactive participant in the chaotic drama of other people. You are the sovereign ruler of your own mental territory, and you hold the keys to your own peace. If someone tries to hand you a package of their toxic energy, you simply refuse to accept the delivery. Let them hold on to their own poison. Your energy is a highly valuable commodity, and you must protect it relentlessly. You are now equipped to neutralize any negative force from the outside, not by fighting it, but by rising so far above it that it can no longer reach you. If this Stoic perspective has shifted something within your mind today and provided you with the psychological armor you need to protect your peace, Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a lesson in self-mastery. Leave a comment below declaring that you will no longer surrender your power to the noise of others. Stay calm, stay disciplined, and remember that your unshakable peace is your ultimate weapon. The journey to complete self-mastery does not end here. Every single day will present you with new tests, new provocations, and new opportunities to either surrender your peace or stand firm like an impenetrable fortress. True Stoic power is a daily practice of choosing reason over reaction. If you found value in these ancient principles and are ready to reclaim your psychological freedom, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell. Drop a comment below, telling me which of these Stoic weapons you are going to use first. Stay disciplined, stay untouchable, and always remember that your mind belongs entirely to you. See you next video.